The problems facing New Zealand's primary sector have been mounting at a rapid pace. So I think it's time for open hearts and open minds. Welcome to Sarah's Country, this growing interactive multimedia show where we discuss the latest innovations in food and fibre production from little old New Zealand. You know, we do punch well above our weight, exporting highly nutritious and sustainable products, which we are starting to recognise the value for. We go on a lot about we need to tell the story better. I don't know about you, but to me it's like a stuck, scratched Beatles record that I could put in a claybird shooter and deal to. Don't get me wrong, it's got nothing to do with the rhetoric of the phrase. We are not the best communicators as a population. Actually, something I learned came from our Nordic ancestry from the early settlers, the old tall poppy. But you know what? Here at Sarah's Country, we approach our stories with an open heart and an open mind. We're navigating why we need to continue to farm and grow the way we do. Is the consumer right or wrong? You know what? But one thing I think we should have an open conversation is the opportunity for us to farm and grow with a story of health. This is not just the health of our environment, and it's not just the health of our animals, but the health of our people at the cornerstone of our food production. Our consumer is becoming more health conscious, and post-COVID, immunity and gut health is a growing trend. And of course, the corporate responsibility of providing more nutritious food to our country's worst off. So, leads me into June. June is Men's Health Month. And as a country with some of the worst obesity rates and health in the world, yet we have a country that produces some of the most highly dense, nutritious food. Tell me how we're going to tell that story. Improving rural health has been neglected not just from a government level for too long, but I think that also it's our own personal responsibility as rural communities. Nagging wives have grown tired of getting their blokes for health checks, and I was humbled by the great work that Global HQ are doing behind the scenes in something that they don't need to be doing as a rural newspaper as Farmers Weekly, but they care. Launching a health and wellbeing initiative, which was the brainchild of Wiggy, Craig Wiggins, and is now being driven by former Rural Health Alliance CEO Michelle Thompson. You couldn't get two more passionate people about rural health. They've created this bright, big, orange caravan and took it last year around sale yards around the country, bringing with it the GP to the farmer, Dr. Sue Foley from the Rakai Medical Centre. Did you know that they found 30% of farmers that just popped in from the sale yards into this caravan to have a yarn went on to need to be referred to a GP? 30% of those farmers undetected. So I want to talk about this throughout the shows tonight. It's something we don't want to talk about, men's health, but let's do it. You know, what is one or two things that you make sure you get onto to make sure your health is on the right track? And this is males or females. You know, I've just got on the new buzz of hemp seed oil tablets after what I've heard. Grass-fed red meat, we all know is fantastic. Liquid vitamin C, you know, going into winter, how do you take care of yourself? I'd love to know in the comments below because, you know, to have more energy is connected to our gut health. We know that is connected to our mental health. And the old saying as you get on the plane, put your mask on before anyone else's. It's no good if you're not looking after number one. Let's make being selfish cool again. Joel, your mother Joanne Rock, she likes to walk the dog. It's 8 o'clock in the morning in the UK for those watching live. She'll love this bit. What are you doing to look after yourself, Joel?
What am I doing to look after myself?
Yeah, I mean, I gave you some broccoli tonight for dinner.
Yeah, I had some greens. That was the first time in a wee while, I guess. You've brought the hemp seeds in. You haven't enjoyed those. Just sprinkling them on everything. I did yoga like 2 weeks ago for about 5 minutes. That's something.
Do you like supplements? You know, tablets, capsules, you know?
No, I used to, like, whenever I went to the gym, which obviously I still do, I took, like, whey and stuff like that, but I never really got into supplements other than that. So, I don't know.
What about, I'll introduce you to some Deer Velvet, but you're probably too young for that. Now, what is it? Is it red wine? Let me know in the comments below. What do you eat, drink and supplement to look after yourself? Let's share and show each other that here in New Zealand, we do care about our own health. Now, coming up in Serious Country, where are we? So coming up in Serious Country tonight, we're going to hear after 7:20 from the project led from the Food Writers New Zealand and the author of one of my favourite recipe books I've got at home. It's called Meat in 3, that has been brought together through a collection of food writers to create a digital recipe book called Cosy, which was pulled together over COVID, with funds going to our tremendously selfless friends at Meet the Need, the charity providing meat from farmers direct to city missions in New Zealand. Then we're going to head to the milk plant where the drivers of value are changing, and Fonterra wants to reflect that in a new bonus payment system to farmers producing milk more sustainably. Richard Allen, a director at Farm Source, is going to join us at 7:30 to discuss this new cooperative difference payment. But is it in the best interest of all of the cooperative farmers? To close the show, many of our global consumers are seeking out GMO-free accreditation status labels as a simple mark for them to find healthiness as they perceive when they purchase, regardless of science, explanation and the difference between GMO and gene editing. They don't care, they don't know the difference between that or the way we farm in the States compared to New Zealand. But this trend is actually exploding across our regional councils, with the next GMO-free announcement coming out of the Northland Regional Council, agreeing this week that provisions against genetically modified organisms in their coastal marine area. We're going to discuss the difference in pressures around the status between land and sea with Kaipara District Mayor Dr. Jason Smith after 7:40. But to kick off the show, you know that pesky sea lettuce that ties around surfboards and your swimmers here in the harbour, you know, that stinky, rotting green layer in the high tide line, you know the stuff. Well, there's $4 million from the Tertiary Education Commission and $9 million from Waikato University going into research that has a highly valuable new home for sea lettuce. And that will bring health benefits to humans and potentially lower environmental issues for livestock farming. Dr. Marie Magnusson, the Macroalgal biotech program lead from Waikato University, is going to join us up next to unpack the goodness from this gunge. This is Sarah's Country.
Aotearoa, New Zealand has always been a land that has provided for its people, a land of abundance and opportunity. Our dedicated team at Ag Research know that embracing kaitiakitanga will see this continue for future generations. The work we do is transforming the way we farm and revolutionizing the way New Zealanders care for our animals and for our land. We work hard to create the world's most desirable food and bio-based products through smart, sustainable farming, led by some of the world's most phenomenal research and informed by the consumers who benefit from this passion. Through a focus on environmental sustainability and climate change initiatives, this passion will allow our work to continue for generations to come. Our proficiencies in research run wide, from seeds to pest control, high-value food production to practical farming systems and quality assurance. From the smallest rural land use project to international research programs, our science and technology innovations drive the prosperity of our precious agricultural sector. It's through this research that New Zealand retains its position as a scientifically advanced global agricultural leader. Our commitment to the growth of our wider New Zealand economy, its people, and the kaitiakitanga of Aotearoa is at the very heart of every scientific innovation and creation we deliver. Ag Research, firmly grounded in this land, these waters, looking to what's in the stars and the future. Ata Matai, Matai Fitu.
Bubbling tubs of sea lettuce, on an industrial site only metres from the Tauranga harbour, a team of researchers is starting to understand how this otherwise pesky maritime plant can find a thriving aquaculture industry. The government last September released an aquaculture strategy which hopes to move the $800 million a year industry further towards $3 billion by 2035. And sea lettuce has many properties to attribute to capturing this value. Joining us now in Ceres Country is the Macroalgal biotech program lead from Waikato University, Dr. Marie Magnusson. How are you this evening, Marie? Thank you for taking the time to join us.
I'm very well, thanks, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Now, how did you become involved in the project and your background in this particular field?
I've been working with seaweed and with microalgae as well for a long time. So for nearly 15 or so years now. So I started off working in Australia in the tropics and got recruited to join the University of Waikato about 2 years ago now, and moved back to the cooler climes. I'm originally from Sweden, so it's been wonderful to move back to a country with cool seasons.
Let's talk about it. There's a lot of different things going on. It's not just one solution that's coming out of this research. Was it predominantly human health that interested you to start with, or were you quite passionate around the connections to stop feed?
For me, it was probably most the environmental benefits and the potential of using seaweed and macroalgae for bioremediation, and at the same time being able to develop a lot of really interesting products. But yes, Joel, you should be eating seaweed to look after yourself. It's a really good plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about it. I was talking to a bright young man who's very interested in it from a carbon sequestration perspective. Is this part of it just as much as well the health elements?
There are a lot of benefits, and you can gain carbon sequestration benefits from growing seaweed as well. It's more you definitely sequester carbon at a local scale where you are producing the seaweed, and then depending on what sort of product you're making from the biomass, you can also long-term sequester the carbon. So if you are just eating it or feeding it to animals, the carbon re-enters the cycle on a really sort of short-term basis. But there are products, if you make biochar or things out of for example, cellulose, that you can incorporate into longer-lasting but still biodegradable materials. There's still long-term benefits in carbon sequestration.
Okay, on the health side of it, human health, of course, Japan has been very passionate about consuming seaweed in a lot of their diets for many, many years. What can we do here in New Zealand to differentiate?
Well, I think it's a matter of both the clean green image of New Zealand. We got beautiful green seaweed as well. The material, the biomass that we are cultivating at the university is really spectacular looking and really nice for food presentation. We grow beautiful little clusters that look like little stars. They also taste really nice, and they are really good for your general health and gut well-being. And there's strong indications both from our own previous research and also from research globally how healthy seaweed is for you.
And healthy for the environment. Could you tell us about your work in Australia and this bioremediation and land waste going into our waterways, and how we can plant seaweed, not just in the sea, but of course in our waterways as well?
Yeah, for sure. Excuse me. So in my previous work, we had an industry partner who we were working very closely with, and we throughout the work, we started off working together with a prawn farm where we were using the nutrients, so mainly the nitrogen and the phosphorus from the prawn effluent after the feeding of the prawns. There's lots of nitrogen and phosphorus left in the water, and so we would channel this water through seaweed ponds. And over several years, we were quantifying the amounts of nitrogen in the intake water from the Great Barrier Reef and also in the effluent water after the water's gone through prawn farms and then also the algal ponds. And we demonstrated that we had lower concentrations of nitrogen in the water after algal treatment than in the actual intake water in the Great Barrier Reef. So basically, you can use these sort of technologies to clean up waterways and really make a big difference. And even if you're cultivating, having ocean-based aquaculture, as soon as you're removing and harvesting that biomass from the ocean, you are in effect removing that nitrogen and phosphorus from that system.
Excuse my ignorance, but in terms of anything where there is a lot of interest can go into an explosion of a monoculture in a marine environment, I'm not too sure of and aware of. But I understand there's a lot of consented area in our oceans, particularly around the Hauraki Gulf, and we'll be speaking to Dr. Jason Smith from the Kaipara towards the end of the show. How will we manage this growth and do it in a way that's good for the ecosystem of our marine life as well?
I think in terms of seaweed, a lot is around the management of when you harvest to make sure that there aren't. So if you harvest before the seaweed goes reproductive, for example, you're limiting the risk of having seaweed starting to grow where it wasn't growing before. There's already quite a lot of settlement of seaweed on man-made structures like mussel farming infrastructure and pylons and those sort of things. But it's a natural thing. Seaweed will settle where there are appropriate surfaces for them. What we're doing is we're only looking to cultivate seaweed that are already present in an area as well. And even if we're growing things on land, we're really focused on determining what's around in the local area and starting cultures from seaweed from that local area, so we're not moving biomass between different areas for biosecurity reasons.
Marie, as you said, as you saw as we opened the show there, we're talking a lot about men's health, particularly because it's June, but how human health in general and how we need to sort of tell that story. What's one fun fact about seaweed and human health and how good it can be for a part of our body?
Oh, I don't know if there's so much fun facts. They're just really, really good facts. One thing that is maybe interesting is there's lots of things that you can do with seaweed that make it more palatable for the uninitiated palate, I should say. So there's because there's a much less of a tradition in New Zealand and in Western countries of eating seaweed. We've been cooking it up at home and roasting it with sesame and
brilliant. We love a good cat in front of the camera.
And those sort of things. So there's lots of those sort of things that you can try with seaweed that are maybe not sort of traditional ways of eating it.
And lastly, it's been reported before that it could be a fantastic tool in the toolbox with regards to methane reduction for livestock and supplements. I know our audience will be very interested in that. Where are we at with that research?
So there's, in terms of the red seaweed that has received most of the attention around methane mitigation, there still remains some work to be done in terms of the long-term efficacy and safety. I think I am personally confident that there is clear benefits in going that way and making sure we can gather all the relevant data. And we are growing this species in our lab as well. So.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. There's Dr. Marie Magnusson from Waikato University and all the great work that they're doing there at Waikato University in general in regards to science. Isn't it fantastic to see the depth and breadth of science and everything that we eat and grow here in New Zealand? Now, next up on Sarah's Country, talking about eating and growing. I know I grew up on a diet of meat and 3 veg, and I'm sure a lot of you did too. If you did, please give us a thumbs up in the comments below. Now it's time we ensure New Zealand's most vulnerable also receive meat and 3 veg through the proceeds of a very special cookbook going to meet the need. Up next on Sarah's Country. This is Sarah's Country.
Every morning, Kiwi farmers wake up to produce high quality food. Yet, every night, some Kiwi families are going to sleep hungry. Meet the Need is a charity founded by farmers, and it's here to change all that. We're about New Zealand farmers feeding New Zealand families by donating a small part of what we grow when we can. You can help us make sure no one in New Zealand goes to sleep hungry again. Visit meettheneed.org and follow us on social.
Delicious. Ever wondered where it starts? Does it start with care? Respect. Fresh grass 365 days a year. The truth is, delicious doesn't start in a single moment or with a single ingredient. Delicious starts here.
Loving the comments coming in. Thank you so much. Now, Jock has said, go light on the booze, give up the smokes, regular exercise, and he said, drink cranberry juice. Cranberry juice is fantastic, actually. And, of course, merino meat. Oh, I'm with you there, Jock. Michael Ross said that there was a creation of a farmer health service at sale yards in Cornwall back in the late 80s as well, as part of his involvement with New Zealand Rural Trust. And Joanne Rock, Joel's mother, wants to make sure that he's getting some vitamin D, as they are is very important in Ireland, I could imagine, Joanne. Joel, we're just about to go into one of my favourite foodies in New Zealand. What is the ultimate hearty Irish meal that you can share with our Kiwi and obviously British audience that we do have?
I mean, I love an Ulster fry. That's probably my go-to. It's not exactly healthy, but it's pretty good. What
is that?
You just kind of get a lot of good breakfast food and fry it with beans. There's potato bread, there's soda bread, there's baked beans. You can have a black pudding in it, although that's more of a Scottish fry. There's sausages, all the good stuff. Not healthy, but brilliant.
I tell you what, the UK certainly know how to do breakfast very, very well. You'd eat that much, you wouldn't need dinner. Now, during COVID-19 lockdown, it became apparent that people were looking for recipes. We saw the flour flying off the shelf. So she rallied the troops. The call went out for recipe contributions. And within the day, Food Writers New Zealand members had enough recipes for a very special e-cookbook with a taste for giving. Joining us now from Auckland is author and project lead Kathy Paterson. Kathy, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Lovely to see you again.
Yeah. Now, Kathy, why an ebook was my first question when I read this press release.
Well, I think it's something that we could do reasonably quickly. And also, I love the idea if something wasn't right or it didn't work, well, we just pretend we didn't do it. Because it's really you don't need anything apart from a computer and your telephone to take a few photos. So it was great. So it's really, and then you can change anything really easily. So, and you don't have a print deadline. So it was great, and we wanted to do it as quickly as we possibly could, so we could get out right on winter, because the recipes are recipes just for winter.
How important is it to pull together the troops, as we said? Because obviously, you know, it's a lot of pride and ego attached to the author's own cookbook. But the Food Writers New Zealand is quite a special group of people to collaborate together around this project called Cosy.
Well, they were great, actually. They all jumped at it. Honestly, they'd all pretty much submitted a recipe within the day that we put the call out for recipes, and all the recipes went into the book. I didn't have to change anything. It just all fitted really well. We had enough soups, and we had enough vegetable dishes and enough meat dishes. It was just amazing how that worked, actually. And I had a great design, and then of course I had my wonderful designer Ashley Gray, and so we just then worked together and got the whole thing together and made it into a book.
Is this the Ashley Gray, former Beef and Lamb?
Yes.
She's a wonderful woman.
Very clever, and she knows how fussy I am and have quite unrealistic expectations. So she knows how to handle me. So that was quite good, because I would push for more. And but she was excellent. She came up with some great ideas of how to make it look really good as well, because of course I was slightly concerned we might end up with a big hodgepodge, because with people, you know, having to take their own images and things, although we did give some really good guidelines of the sort of type of colour scheme we wanted, the backgrounds we wanted, not too many props, for example, and so that was quite helpful.
Really is like the potluck recipe book of New Zealand's finest food authors pulling together. But I'd love to understand your connection to the charity and the reason for pulling this together around the wonderful work Meet the Need are doing.
Well, that was interesting, because we actually, I had approached food banks, and they said to me that could we partner with one of their partners. And so we thought, well, that was fine. And then we came across Meet the Need, which was quite a new startup. So we thought, well, that's great, because it's new, because it's quite difficult. I mean, because we're quite small food writers. It was only 200 members. So we're not expecting to, you know, make thousands and thousands, and so we wanted to make it a difference somewhere. And we thought, well, a new startup's quite good, and we can help with their running costs, because we know how important that is. And so it was great, and they just sort of landed on our plate, really, and they were thrilled to bits.
Kathy, I know from when you launched Meat in 3, when we had a yarn there, that you've got a very deep connection to rural New Zealand. Can you share that with our audience?
Oh yes, well, so I'm obviously from a beef and sheep farm as well in the Wairarapa, and I have, and I just love the farming lifestyle, and I also am very proactive in trying to educate people, especially urbanites, you know, what farmers do. And because, you know, there's been a lot of, well, I suppose you could use the word flack, people being a bit negative, but I think it's really about educating them and showing them what farmers do. And this is another really good way of showing people what farmers are actually out there doing, which is really important to me.
Yeah, exactly.
And how important meat is, you know, to a lot of people.
And that whole highlighting farmers giving back as well, which is incredibly amazing, as the light has now been shone through COVID on our farming community.
Well, I know, and farmers are really generous people. They've got that side to them, because you have to be, and because it's a difficult job actually out in, you know, as I say to people, they're out in all weathers. You know, they never know what's going to happen. So you have to be a really special person to be a farmer anyway. And I think I really like people to see that side of them and understand that that's what they like. And they're like us cooks. They like feeding people. They like looking after people as well as their animals.
To close, Kathy, I have just bought my first home and I swore to God that I was going to have a separate dining room, which is very rare. And I'm looking forward to my housewarming where I can have a dinner party. You know, I may be showing my age. What is one recipe out of this ebook? And also, how can people purchase this ebook? Very simply, that I'm going to cook for this housewarming.
Well, quite a few. Obviously, I've made quite a few. In fact, I've probably made at least well over half of them. But I'm just looking through my little list here. And do you like? Obviously, you like lamb shanks. There's a beautiful recipe in there, which I was really interested to try. It was Vietnamese lamb shanks, and it was I really enjoyed it. It had that. It was quite. It wasn't like rich lamb shanks with lots of mashed potato. It was actually quite light. But they were really delicious because they had the limes and Vietnamese mint and some mint through them, and it was. I thought this is quite nice. I'm not surprised. I expect food writers to write good recipes, but it's good to. I love trying other people's recipes, and that was good. That was really good. So that was a really nice one and a really good one that you could make easily. The other two, which I really enjoyed, was actually Annabelle Langbine's ginger and chicken dumpling bowls, which were really nice as well and just had a really interesting flavour. So I think, you can always make my orange turmeric and carrot fritters.
Oh, lots of things to keep cozy over winter. Now, it's only $10. Whereabouts can people purchase this ebook? And, of course, the proceeds going to meet the need in terms of, as you said, those much vital administration costs, Kathy.
So you need to go onto our website, which is www.foodwriters.org.nz. And when you click in and come up to the home page, you'll see it says Buy Cosy. So it's very easy to do that. And you click on there, and it'll take you to the book, and you just pay. So you can pay it's $10, but people have been very generous and are giving more. You can give up to $100 on the website, and most people are paying a lot more than 10, which is really lovely.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Kathy Paterson, if you haven't also grabbed her book, Meat in 3, I highly suggest it. It's one of my favourites as well. But tonight we're talking about the new ebook called Cosy, pulled together as a collaboration of New Zealand's most renowned food writers on how to stay cosy this winter and how to fill the bellies of our most vulnerable through our city mission with Meet the Need. Now, up next, we're going to hear from Richard Allen from Farm Source on Fonterra's new co-operative difference payment, paying more for more sustainably produced milk. This is Sarah's Country.
Everyone's been talking about food these days.
While we've been busy stacking shelves, there's a whole team behind us.
But it's hard work too.
And we don't grow it without help.
Nutritious food needs nutrients. Our soil tells us that story.
By testing, we know what the soil needs.
We make the nutrients right here in New Zealand.
And we've got it
when you need it.
And we get it to where it needs to go.
As farmers, we have a really important role in turning sunshine and water and nutrients into an edible product, and we don't take that lightly.
It's great to know we're putting food on the New Zealand dinner table.
So we can all come together.
We've got to play our part in keeping the farmers growing what they grow, whether it be grass or fruit and vegetables.
Pleased to be part of the production line that keeps the industry moving and keeps people being fed.
I have been speaking to a farmer and they appreciate what we're doing.
They're really happy that at this critical time of the year for their autumn applications, our stores and supply networks have stayed open.
You're proud and privileged to be part of the team.
Thanks for the hard work, team. Let's dig in. And let's do it all again tomorrow. Cheers. Cheers.
Now, I want your comments below. Tonight we're talking about men's health and health in general as well. And New Zealand needs to punch above its weight in being one of the healthiest countries in the world if we're going to sell the most nutritious, healthiest food, in my mind. Sarah has said, remember your smear tests and mammograms. Absolutely, Sarah, and thank you for sharing that, because women can be quite terrible at that as well. Now, I know our next guest hasn't had dinner. Joel, I'm just reading through some of these hearty dishes from this book. We have a pulled beer braised beef brisket. Whoa, there's some bees in that. Whew. And what about a... so good. All slow-cooked food. Did you ever buy a slow cooker while you're here, Joel? Do you own a slow cooker?
Not here. Oh, sorry.
You
Not here. Back home I do, but I'll need to, need to get hold of one of those.
Literally, there's chocolate croissant tray baked pudding with salted cocoa cream. Go to foodwriters.org at $10 is all it is to get this ebook called Cosy, and all of those proceeds going to meet the need. Now, from 1st June 2021, Fonterra is introducing a cooperative difference payment of up to 10 cents per kilogram of milk solids if the farm meets the co-op's on-farm sustainability and value targets. It's part of the co-op strategy to add value to New Zealand's milk and responds to the increasing demand from customers here and around the world for sustainably produced dairy. The payment will be funded out of the farm gate milk price. Joining us now is Director for Farm Source, Richard Allen. Good evening, sir. Sorry for making you a bit hungry there.
Yeah, no problem. Kia ora. It's a pleasure to be here. And that Meet the Need charity, it's just fantastic, the job that Wayne and the team have done there. It's just outstanding. So good to see that.
Thank you. But as soon as I saw this press release come through, I thought fantastic. How come it's taken so long?
Look, I think the key thing is whenever we look to make changes in the milk price, we've got to make sure we're making changes that are real, that are linked to value, and that we have a really good, baseline for. So we have seen increasing demand from consumers and customers around the world around this sort of sustainability narrative, but really what that means and understanding what value that delivers to farmers was really critical. But I guess over the last 12 months, you saw the new Fonterra strategy come out, sustainability as well and truly at the heart of everything we do. And over that 12 months, we've seen an almost kind of exponential rise in the interest and the questions we're getting from not just the big customers, not just the Nestle's and the Mars and those really big multinationals, but more of those regional heroes, so the regional Chinese companies and all that, wanting us to, tell them about, what our sustainability, our animal welfare, our quality is on farm, be able to quantify it, and then hopefully, we extract that value back. So taking a bit of time, but the co-ops it's a big ship, and so you've got to make sure you make the right decisions.
Well, that's very true, and it does take a lot to turn that ship called Fonterra. But this isn't certainly the first time. There was the Farm Source reward dollars that this is replacing. Could you explain the tiered system prior and the more precise reimbursement of this cooperative difference payment?
Yeah, sure. So we launched the Cooperative Difference Program last year, and effectively what we wanted to do was bring together a more simplified and consistent framework, which talked about, firstly, what are our minimum standards and terms and conditions of supply for today, but also look at, for those farmers going above and beyond, what is a way we could recognise and reward those farmers, and most importantly, also talk about what does the future look like in some of the most important areas on farm, so that when farmers are making decisions today, they're doing it with an eye to the future. So under the Cooperative Difference as it stands today, it's been going a year. We finished up the season, obviously, on 30 May. We have 3 levels of achievement, Te Pūtake, Te Puku, and Te Tihi. And those te reo words effectively we took from a Māori metaphor around sort of the climbing of a mountain. So it's about a journey, right? So you start at the bottom, Te Pūtake, up to the middle, through Te Puku, and then you reach the summit, Te Tihi. And they relate to different performance standards on farm. We have 5 key areas under the Cooperative Difference Framework, being the environment, animal welfare, people and communities on farm, milk quality, and then finally co-op and our prosperity, so how farmers are engaging with their cooperative.
How does this differ from Synlay's Lead with Pride?
Yeah, I mean, look, all of these programs are in a way about, I guess, rewarding farmers for different practices on farm. I think the key thing from our program is first and foremost, it's designed for a cooperative, right? So every single farmer has equal opportunity to participate in this program. So we want as many farmers as possible participating and achieving through the cooperative difference. We provide a lot of support to our farmers. So we have our sustainability experts that we get out on farm. We have our own farm environment plans. We have, our area managers, our milk quality experts out there supporting our farmers. So I guess, in some aspects there are definite similarities, but for us, we looked to that and we said, I think, Synlait do some very good things. But for us, it was about ensuring that whatever we design has the cooperative principles in mind, that it's fit for purpose for our cooperative. We've been really pleased with kind of the participation we've had in year one of the cooperative difference. Over 6,000 farmers have taken part. We're confident that, as we go through the design for this next phase, which we're doing over the next few months, that first and foremost, we need a framework that suits our farmers and our cooperative.
There has been a little bit of criticism around the framework of this, in particular the payment funded out of the Farmgate milk price, Richard. Why isn't the payment tied directly to value add from the consumer and the effect of this from a shareholder's perspective on the cooperative?
It's a great question, and I think probably the first part of that question to answer is that, when we think about the Farmgate milk price, we shouldn't just assume that's commodities. There's a huge amount of value add and sales effort and getting customers to bid on our global dairy trade platform. All of that takes a lot of effort, and so there's an immense amount of value associated with, I guess, the performance on farm, the quality, and all that already in that milk price. So we shouldn't just think value add sits outside the milk price. There is an immense amount of value add ingredients, some of our most specialized products and all that actually do inform that milk price. And so when we think about, introducing this payment, yes, this payment is about absolutely delivering more value back into the milk price and more value to our shareholders, but it's also about protecting value, right? So whilst, we do, and off the hard work of our farmers over decades, we do enjoy, when I was up in China, it was great. We were seen as the highest quality, some of the best farmers in the world, and we enjoy that position today. But the really important thing is that our competitors aren't standing still. So if you look at what the Europeans are doing, they're investing heavily in on-farm sustainability. You look what's happening in the US in terms of their investment around milk quality, cooling and all that. So in order for us to kind of maintain this position and maintain, I guess, the preferential kind of relationships we have with all of, the world's largest dairy customers, we've got to keep moving. And so a large part of this is about supporting this milk price and actually supporting, protecting, and generating more value for that Farmgate milk price.
So between now and the 1st of June 2021, what milk needs to go under the bridge, Richard, around some of the consultation around how this is going to be distributed?
Yeah, so all that's been, at the moment, the board have approved up to 10 cents per kilo linked to the cooperative difference framework. I guess what we've got to do now is look at the framework we've got in place at the moment. We've had a lot of good feedback, some good, some bad, around kind of the areas that are working well, the areas that aren't working so well. We're about to go out and do a number of meetings around the country with farmers to, have a look at, here are some ways in which we could look at, the payment when the cents per kilo payment comes through. Things like, we don't want farmers missing out on 10 cents because of a road grade or something like that. This is about encouraging participation as opposed to, trying to, reward a very small few. So we're going to be out and about. We'll get the feedback back, and then we have to go back through the board later in the year. So we'll probably go back September, October, November, get the framework signed off, and then we should be out in early 2021 when we release our terms and conditions of supply, same time every year. And in those T's and C's, we'll obviously outline kind of what the framework will look like for 1 June 21.
Before you go, we've had a comment come in here, Richard, from Stuart McIntyre, who said that it's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind. It's a start, but one hopes we can extract more premium from our sustainability. So I think he's saying thank you.
I might steal that quote, Stuart. That's a goodie. But hey, thank you very much for your time tonight, Stuart.
Thank you. That's Richard Allen. He's a director there at Farm Source, talking about Fonterra's new cooperative difference premium payment of 10 cents. Now, of course, we are produced in alliance with the great people at Farmers Weekly. So all of the coverage is happening daily on farmersweekly.co.nz, and in that fantastic long-form investigative journalism piece called Farmers Weekly, the newspaper, which turns up in your mailbox every Monday or Tuesday. To close the show after the break, we're going north. We're going to the Kaipara Harbour to talk to Dr. Jason Smith, ahead of the news of this anti-GMO announcement out of Northland. And let's talk to him about Shane Jones's shovel-ready water reservoirs. All that on Sarah's Country. This is Sarah's Country.